you are absolutely at your wit's end. You don't know what to do. You are so frustrated and annoyed, you want to pull your hair out. And let's be real, you consider pulling their hair out. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about that little darling in your room who has misbehaved so much until you don't know what to do. Unfortunately for many of us, these students with bad behavior are driving our co-workers and even us out of the teaching profession because we're tired of dealing with the misbehavior. Sadly, a lot of these students who are misbehaving are the main ones who need love and attention. And that's the reason behind the bad behavior. So what can we do as educators when we're having to deal with students who are misbehaving, but their misbehavior is actually a cry for love? Well, that's what we're going to talk about here today on Too Cute Classroom. So before you pull your hair out, before you quit your job, before you run out of that room screaming, before you drag little T to the office again, let's talk about some strategies in which you can use. First, let's talk about the message, the cry that is behind the misbehavior. A lot of times, our students who are showing out, who are giving us all that attention that they want, they have a need for love. There's a lack of control in their lives, and so they're fighting for it in any spot, in any way they can. Unfortunately for us, that place is within our classroom. They are scared of failing, so they mask it with avoidance. They have a longing to be seen, heard, and loved. And when you have a room full of 30 kids, it can be hard to give these little babies the love in which they need. It is difficult, but we have to make an effort to do it. I'll give you a good example. There's a young lady inside of my classroom, and I figured out she has a reading problem. She simply cannot read. She's a struggling reader. And I asked myself when I met her, how in the world did she get to the grade in which she's in? She tries to mask this with bad behavior. If I call her, she wants to say something smart to me. She does all of the things. She'll start a fight with somebody in the classroom. She'll do this. She'll do that. She's doing everything she can to avoid having to read because she don't want anybody to realize that she can't read. She thinks she's fooling me, but I have told her, if I had to tell her, baby, there's a problem, and I have identified the problem. But first, I made her confess to the problem, and then we had a little conversation about the fact that she can't read as well as she needs to for the grade in which she is in. And so we're having to come up with a plan to deal with that. But I said all that to say this. She was doing all of that to avoid letting anyone know that she had a problem. So that was causing a lot of her misbehavior. Have another gentleman in my room who acts out every time he steps foot in my door. He's doing something to annoy other kids. He's making comments. He's throwing stuff. He's saying things. But he confessed to me later that there's a situation going on in his home that's very stressful to him. It's very devastating. It was devastating to me when I found out what it was. I won't share here because I don't know who's watching my video. But this young man who has this situation going on, he needs love the most. He needs some attention from the teacher because he's not getting it at home. And so he's acting out inside of my classroom. And we're all faced with these episodes in which our students are doing this. So today I want to just share very quickly 5 strategies that we can use to support our students who need love the most. We have to first build those relationships with our students. Our students are not going to learn a darn thing. If they do, they're just doing it to make themselves happy. Maybe they're self-motivated. But our students don't care how much we know until they know how much we care. We have to build those relationships. I'm not saying be their buddy, be their friend, because believe me, I am a firm believer there has to be a line between being their professional teacher and being their buddy. A lot of younger teachers, I say that newer teachers, are trying to be more of a friend to their students. And to me, it's just not going to mix. I'll share a story with you. My aunt told me years ago when I started a nursing job, she said, you cannot be friends with the A's. And that's what they call a certified nursing assistant because I was the nurse. I was their boss. She said, you're their boss, you're the supervisor. She said, if you get to be friends with them too much, they're not going to want to do anything you say. Same instant with our students. When we get too close to them and let them in too far and start a buddy with them, then they're not going to want to do anything we tell them, so we can't do that. We do have to build those relationships. We start building those relationships, first of all, by getting to know the interests, getting to know the things that they like, what they dislike. And we can do that by using interest inventories. Learn their names. Oh, it is so important for you to learn a child's name. Trust me. It can be hard when you go to a new school, you're in a new place, and you have 200 kids, and you're like, oh my God, I gotta learn all these names. As the year goes on, you will learn their name and pronounce it correctly. And it can be hard to pronounce those names correctly. So my students, some of them have just given up and give me to pronounce their names, especially if it's a weird one. I have to come up with alternatives. Sometimes I have to call them by their last name, or call them by a middle name, or some other name that they give me permission to call them by, because their name may not be so easy for me to learn. But it is so important that we learn our students' name and that we call them by name, that we address them. Let them know we're interested. I tell you what else, you can show interest outside of school. If they have an extracurricular activity, show up for the activity if at all possible. I happen to drive a distance, so sometimes it's not possible, but they really want you to be there. It means so much to them when they look up and see you there. Even the older kids, they'll pretend like they don't care, but they do. Be sure to check in on them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them about their family. See if you can build those relationships with them. The second thing I'm going to tell you is be sure that you're able to separate the student from the behavior. We have to be able to separate our student from the bad behavior in which they're doing. Remember, they're just kids. Even if they're high school students, they are still kids. They think they're grown. They want to be grown. They want to act grown, but they're not grown. They're still children. We have to put the behavior to the side and see them as a person. We need to address the action and not the identity, not the child. We want to use language like, this choice wasn't working for you. It wasn't appropriate. Instead of saying you are being so disrespectful. And it can be easy to say that. Trust me, I know. We want to reinforce that they are still valuable to us, that we still care, that we love them, and that we can give them attention without having to give them the attention they're seeking for bad behavior. They can get some attention from us, but it doesn't have to be the attention in which they are getting. We want predictable, safe environments for our students. We want them to feel safe. We are the beacon, the light in the darkness. We are the stability in their lives. And so we want to make sure that we provide them with a safe environment, because that is so important for our students. Believe it or not, they need some consistency, some clear routines. That board routine that you do over and over again, they need that routine. They need that consistency, because they don't have the consistency and they don't have the routines at home. They need something that's predictable. They need a call response. They need to know what's going to happen. And so when they know what to expect, it decreases the anxiety and it decreases the bad behavior. The fourth thing I'm going to tell you is to give them positive attention intentionally. I tell you what, we were taking tests, and I had a student, a young man, who really was not taking my test. He was just in there doing whatever he wanted to do. He was halfway going to sleep, doing other things, just totally not involved whatsoever. The lady that was in the room with me, she said, watch this. And she went over to him. She put her hands, she tapped him, and she told him, she said, good job. And she walked on by, and boy, he perked up. He went to working. He was working so hard. I said, well, look at him. It worked. She told him, even though he wasn't working, we knew he wasn't working. She said, good job. She smiled at him. He went to work immediately. So we want to make sure that we're giving our students some intentional attention that's positive. It doesn't have to be something negative. We want to catch them doing something good. We want to offer some praise. I really appreciate how you're working today, or how you're so focused. Ooh, you do that so good. Ooh, look at you handing out your pencils. Look at you directing the class. So I have a young lady in my room who I let play teacher. She's a teacher sometimes. She really sounds like my assistant, but I just say she's the teacher. I let her pass out the papers and hand out the pencils and take up stuff. Or I let her make some decisions. I said, well, go get this. Call somebody. I pick somebody to call. Boy, she feels so important. She was a student who liked to misbehave in my room, but she has straightened up. So, I mean, she comes in, she's just like, she's a professional. She's like, she got it. She'll tell her, no, you're not going to do that today. You're going to sit down. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I gave her some power, some authority, and she is using it beautifully. We want to make sure that we teach our students emotional skills alongside academic skills. We need to teach them ways in which they can express their frustration, how they can handle their difficulties, how they can ask for help appropriately, And we need to do some emotional check-in. Maybe you have a counselor at your school, maybe you don't. And I know this is a counseling job, but whether the counselor is there or not, they're tearing up your room. Okay, it's your room they're destroying. It's your class they're disrupting. So you have to have some strategies that you can put in place or teach your students how to handle their emotions, how to handle their behavior. Because even if she is there or he's there, they may can't get to your room fast enough to handle the situation that's going on. So you have to know what to do and when to do it, how to handle the situation. So make sure you have some appropriate responses ready. We want to balance love with boundaries. We want to love on these students the best we can, not physically. We want to show them love. We want them to know that they are loved appropriately, that they are somebody that you do care about them and their well-being. And even if sometimes maybe they have gotten on your nerves to the point where you say, I just can't. I just can't. We have to make an effort to show these children some stability, some hope. There is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Share with me in the comments what you are doing or what strategy you think you're going to take away from this that you can use with your students to help be the beacon of light for them, even in the midst of bad behavior. Like I said, the young man, he works me. He do things that really take me to the next level. But I have to remind myself, remember what's going on in his house, remember the things going on in his home. So I have to extend him some grace. They say grace over grades. So I have to extend him some grace. So I want you to also extend your students some grace. I thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe, to like, to share. And I'll see you guys in the next video.